yarn people. My name's Elizabeth. I'm GreyAutumnRain on Instagram and Ravelry. And this is my podcast about knitting and occasionally crocheting and maybe some other crafty stuff. But welcome. This is my 8th episode. I think so. Oh, and the last episode I did was full of finished objects. It was right after Christmas. I put it out. It was all the stuff I knit my kids for Christmas. So there was 12 pairs of socks and 3 sweaters. And oh my goodness, I'm glad that Christmas knitting is done. So today is Wednesday, January 10th, and I've got a lot to talk about. So let's get into it. First off, I've got a finished object to show. I've got a couple of finished objects to show, but the first one's the one I'm wearing. All right. This is my Celeste sweater by Cicely McDonald. I'm very happy with the way it came out, even though you can kind of tell I did not alternate skeins. So the sleeves are slightly different shape. That's okay. That's okay. I'm comfortable with it. So it's a nice little sweater to wear over a dress. The yarn is Sundara Yarns Fingering Silky Merino in the Bronzed Forest colorway, which is probably not available anymore. I've had the yarn in my stash for a while. But I'm glad I've got a sweater in it now. So that's thing number 1. And anyway, finished object number 2. Let me talk about the socks. So, these are the last pair of socks I made in 2017. I made 25 pairs of socks in 2017. I made 7 sweaters, 6 of which were fingering weight. I really do have a bad case of fingering weight sweater disorder. I just knit them all in fingering weight because I'm a loon. But no, not because I'm a loon. It's a lot more work, but I love fingering weight sweaters to wear. I mean, they're more comfortable. They're thinner, but yet still very warm. Without getting too hot, and they just make a nice layering piece. And I live in New England, where layering is essential. Actually, we had a white Christmas. It snowed on Christmas Day, and it's been white ever since. We had a bunch of cold weather where it was down in like the single digits and teens Fahrenheit. For those of you who live in civilized parts of the world that use the metric system, we're talking -12 to -15 Celsius, that range. And it was cold. I mean, you kind of have to expect that in New England, but it was definitely on the cold end of what we tend to get. So much so that the school district sent out notices telling parents to make sure that they dressed their kids in warm clothes and hats and mittens. And I was like, seriously? Because I was telling my kids, okay, it's such and such degrees out. This is a mandatory wool socks and wool sweater day. And then we got 2 feet of snow, which was not fun to dig out under, but other than that, I really love snow. And it's above freezing today. It's warmed up just the past couple of days. It's above freezing now, but we still have enough snow that it's still all white out. Though a couple of days of warm weather is above freezing weather anyway. Is expected. So maybe we'll free up some parking spots on the streets. I live in Somerville, which is basically right next to Boston, and essentially part of Greater Boston. So parking can be tight. But anyway, I was going to talk about socks. Yay! It's the last pair of socks I made in 2017, and I have a new favorite heel. This is it's a vanilla latte sock, basically, but the heel is the double gusset heel by Christy Payne, and I found out about this heel in a chatter thread over on the Grocery Girls Ravelry group, and I love it. basically you do the decreases right along the sole of the foot in a pair of gussets. And I have really high arches, so I always do a heel flap and gusset because nothing else will work for me, because of the high arch. Um, but these fit the best because this is the shape of my foot. This is what my foot does on the bottom. It goes, so this is the best. I'm gonna use this heel from now on, in all likelihood, because this is what works for me. And the thing about knitting your own socks is you find the heel and toe and everything that work for you, and then you make that. Anyway, the yarn is Knit-Picks Felici in the Witch's Brew colorway, with a contrasting stroll tonal, just regular stroll, heel, toe, and cuff in black. And one of the things I love about the Felici, and I've become addicted to using the contrasting heels, toes, and cuffs now, is that you can change the look of a colorway depending on what you choose for the contrast. Like for Christmas, I made Duncan a pair of socks, and I used electric blue for the heels, toes, and cuffs, which kind of pretty much matched the blue pop color there. And then it became all about the blues and purples, and it looked kind of similar to Captain Nemo, which is their blue and purple colorway in the same series of Felici. And that was really well for him. But for myself, I chose to match them with the black, and you can't come up with a more gothy look, which is that little pop of blue. So that's one of the things I love about Felici is you can actually really kind of change the feel of a colorway by what you choose to use for your contrast. If you so choose. If you choose to use a contrast. All right, well, enough about that pair of socks. The last finished object I have today is the Bing shawl. Yay! Oh, it's so nice. This is by Knox Mountain Knit Company. And I'm doing this for Sam of Hand Me My Knitting's podcast, Knit Along. She's hosting Knox Mountain Knit Company Cal that's running through January 31st. And thank you, Sam. Thank you so much for making the end date of that Cal January 31st. Because I did not knit on this at all during the whole Christmas knitting rush. I mean, I couldn't. And this was a little doomed. I'd made a mistake on the lace at some point and had to rip back, several rows of lace, which is never fun. And then I was getting down here where the rows are like around 500 stitches, and the cable on my the cable on my needle broke, and I was like, oh. Luckily, I had, it was a Knit-Picks interchangeable, and I had another cable I could use, but no, that could have been a much worse disaster. Luckily, I noticed immediately and did not have my knitting unravel on me. But anyway, so the pop color here is Sandara fingering silky merino, the same kind of yarn as the sweater I'm wearing. In my very favorite color of hers, which is Ember Over Flame. I love the red. It's got these, these sort of gold highlights in it. And I'm really pleased with how it worked with this dark brown, the kangaroo stroll tonal, which is no longer available, unfortunately, and the pearlescent stroll tonal. It just kind of makes the brown in the brown tones and the red really look. It looks good with the sort of brownish, goldenish red. Anyway, I love it, and it's a nice big shawl. So just yeah. If you wear them this style, that's It's a nice size. I prefer my shawls on the larger size. Um, it's a personal preference. All right, so that's finished objects. Don't have much more to say about that. So on to works in progress. All right, so works in progress. The first one I've got to show you. I've actually got a hoe. It's a half finished already, and then some. This is a leg warmer for my daughter Margaret, and it's made to match the sweater that I showed in my first episode. So because I had the chroma left over, I had plenty of the white yarn still. It's an ancient patents thing from my grandmother's stash of all things. But yeah, it works well paired with the chroma worsted in the sugar cookie colorway. And I've actually decided that I like the way chroma looks striped with a neutral better than on its own. So there's no pattern for these. It's just I cast on 52 stitches and knit 2x2 rib. She's got skinny legs. I mean, there's lots of stretch in the 2x2 rib, but the idea is that I want a fair amount of negative ease on these because you don't want your leg warmers slipping down. So I've got one done, and another pair on the, yes I've used DPNs, and another pair on the needles. I guess it's about a third of the way done ish. So those should be coming to her soon. In the cold weather, we definitely want leg warmers. Margaret and I are both not pants people. We're girly girls who like to wear dresses. We're kick-ass feminist girly girls who like to wear dresses and are good at math and that sort of thing. But I like dresses. They fulfill my inner princess needs, and they're more comfortable than jeans, really, especially if your legs are warm enough. And we both wear leggings underneath our dresses, and when it's minus 12 to 15 Celsius out, i.e. very cold, having a pair of leg warmers will make sure that your legs are warm enough. In fact, I think that would be warmer than pants, actually, or at least that's been my experience, because I used to wear pants in the past. I don't anymore, because I don't like them. So I don't have to. I'm a grown-up and I can do what I want, especially since I can knit and sew and do the other stuff that I like to do. Alright, so that diatribe aside, time for the next work in progress. I really need more project bags, because this is supposed to be a sock sack and it's got a sweater vest in it. Oh dear. Alright, so Duncan, who is 7 years old, is going to be turning 8 soon, and he wanted a sweater vest, and I told him I'd make it for his birthday. So here we go. It's all on the needles. It's a top-down in the round sweater vest, and this is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Sport, in their claret colorway, because he wants purple. His favorite color is purple. It's a very manly purple. I'm very proud of my son for liking purple, but yes, it is a very manly purple. And let me show you the pattern. I've printed out. All right. It's by Natalie Palick, I think that is, but please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it. And it's the Old College vest. And there's a lovely picture of it. And I love it because it's got this complicated, it's a top-down vest with a V-neck, which is, I like top-down construction because it's easier, and you don't have to seam afterwards. Not that I can't seam. I've done plenty of sweaters that were seamed, from bottom up and seamed. I just don't like doing that anymore since I've got other options. And I love cable work, and it's got this beautiful cable that actually follows the follows the neckline and comes down the front on either side. If I were designing a pattern like this, I'd probably make the cables join up in the front, but that would be complicated. And already this is not a pattern for a beginner. If this is your first garment, if this is your first cabling project, not this one. All right, it's a well-written pattern. It's a paid-for pattern. It's well-written. It's worth the whatever it was I paid for it. It was a standard price, but not for a beginner. Simply because there's a lot of it's well charted and everything, but there's a lot of things going on at once. There's shaping and the shaping for the the underarms and the neckline and a cable all at the same time, and it's just not it's not a beginner pattern. And this is the cable chart, and they do have chart and written instructions. I actually prefer charts for cabling, but I can do either. But they have both, so there's your chart, and you can see it's kind of, especially down here when you're coming out of the cables coming out of nowhere, it can be a little bit, you have to pay attention. This is not Netflix and chill knitting. But anyway, I'm very pleased with it. I need to have this finished by February 1st, obviously, when Duncan turns 8. And I'm liking the way that the rustic wool, the more rustic, wool of the Andes is knitting up. I think this is more appropriate for a nice cabled pattern. It won't pill as much, I don't think, because it's a more sticky rustic yarn. And I'm going to be putting it on a little boy, a very active little boy. So I want something that's hard wearing and it's not going to break the bank. And because it's a vest, he's obviously not going to wear it next to his skin. He's going to wear it over a button-down shirt, which he wears fairly regularly. So it's a good choice. I'm glad I'm not going with a superwash in this case. So that's that. That was whip number 2. And now whip number 3 has actually been a whip since 2011. But I'm doing some work on it, simply because I have a few scraps to use up. And this is my Beekeeper's Quilt by Tiny Owl Knits. I'm working on it. It's a bunch of these little things. She calls them hexapuffs. You knit the individual ones. I think I have an individual one here in my project bag. Lovely Julep project bag. Again, it's a sock sack and it's got blanket bits in it because I'm foolish that way. So you knit up a bunch of these little hexagons. They're 3D, and you do a 3 needle. You stuff them with fiberfill, and you do a 3 needle bind off at the top. I shouldn't say more than that because it is a paid for pattern. It was intended for sock yarn scraps because everyone has lots of sock yarn scraps, but at the time I didn't have a lot of sock yarn scraps because I really wasn't much of a sock knitter. At the time I was wearing tights under my dresses, not socks, so I didn't have a lot of call for socks. I've now changed to leggings and socks, so I'm now making more socks. But at the time, I had a lot of scraps with DK weight and worsted weight scraps from crocheted blankets and which I crochet in wool and garments. So that's what I had, and so I made mine out of worsted and DK scraps on a slightly larger needle. So I've got slightly larger hexapuffs, and I couldn't use her joining method, so I whipped mine together. You can see where there's some whip stitches especially on the white, you can see where these whip stitches, joining them up. Oh yeah, and if I don't have enough for a full hex buff, I just make one that's two-tone. It's a scrap blanket, which is why this has been a whip since 2011 when it was all the rage. But, you know, basically I only work on it when I have scraps to use up, and it's going to be sitting around for a while because I'd like it to be at least twin bed size. It's getting there in width. It needs a bit more width and a lot more length. And I do have a whole bunch of hex puffs that are not joined up, sitting in this square canvas, storage container upstairs. But I thought I'd show that to you since, scrap yarn blankets are a thing, and since I did some work on it. But yes, that is not going to get done anytime soon, though I'm starting to want it out of the way. I think I'm not going to do any more scrap yarn blankets after this. Having such a long-term whip is just not good for my psyche. I prefer, I'm more of a project person than a process person. So that was one thing where my use of every last available scrap of yarn OCD clashed with my finish all the things OCD, and in that case they used the scraps thing one. It's a really nice pattern, but I'm going to use my scraps on smaller things like scrappy socks and possibly scrappy hats in future, and not drive myself crazy with something I've been working on for 7 years. And won't finish possibly for 7 more. Who knows? All right. In my last episode, I talked a lot about all the things I'd made for my kids for Christmas. But this time, I get to talk about the wonderful things my kids got me for Christmas. I did something slightly naughty, or slightly self-interested anyway. And they did want to shop for me. I took them to my local yarn store to shop for me, which is Mind's Eye Yarn in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Just down the street, actually. And I dropped them off, and I explained to the woman working there what was going on, and then I stepped outside the shop. Yes, I abandoned this poor woman with my 3 kids so that they could actually surprise me. And she was a really, really good sport about it. She, asked me, if I had any rules, and I said no lace weight. I have more lace weight than I have all the lace weight I intend to use for the rest of my life. And she then asked me if I had a preferred fiber. I said, well, and I explicitly said, to the kids that they should think of a project when they're buying yarn. What will mommy make out of this? And I also made it explicitly clear to them that, it was perfectly kosher for them to buy yarn for me to make them something with. That still counted as a present for mommy. And, some random woman who is in the yarn shop chimed in agreeing with that. Yes, that's still totally a present for your mommy, even if you're asking her to make you something with it. Which made me feel a lot less guilty about this maneuver. So I got some really great Christmas presents this year. So first of all, I'll go in reverse age order. First of all, from Martin, I got a lovely Barocco Ultra Wool skein in red. Martin's favorite color is red. And then I also got a lovely skein of Barocco Ultra Wool in purple from Duncan. Duncan says that he wants fingerless gloves out of this, which I can totally do. Yeah, even if I can't find a fingerless glove pattern for worsted weight, I can certainly find a fingerless mitt pattern for worsted weight and just convert it to gloves. It's not hard to do, at least not hard for me. And then Martin chimed in saying he wanted fingerless gloves too, because if Martin can't think of his own thing to do, he'll follow Duncan's lead. That's the way brothers work. So I've got these two lovely wool skeins. Oh, I love wool. Wool is wonderful. And my boys will have their fingerless gloves, and I will certainly have scraps left over to do something with, probably something more than just throw them into the Hexapuffs blanket. Though I'm sure some of these will end up, the tail ends of these will certainly end up being Hexapuffs too. If for no other reason than so I can finally finish that blanket. But yeah, red and purple for my boys. And there was a bit of a red-purple theme going on, because what I got from Margaret really blew my mind. This was a great present. Yes. It's Malabrigo sock yarn. And the skein is called Anniversario. If I'm pronouncing that properly. I had French in school, so anything else is a bit of a loss on me. But yeah, I love this color. Look. It's got sort of reddish bits and purpley bits, and I love both red and purple. And there's even a little grayish bit there. I love gray. And Margaret really took the think of a project for thing seriously. She had ladies at Mind's All Yarn print out a free pattern from Ravelry, but a pattern nonetheless, for us called the Stormy Sky Shawl, and gave it to her. So she gave me a package deal, yarn, and a shawl that she could make out of it. I remember the woman who had chimed in about the "it's totally a present for mom," even if you asked her to make you something for you out of it thing. She came out of the store and told me that I was going to have a wonderful Christmas, and boy was she right. And she was obviously thinking of this, and Margaret's choosing of a shawl pattern as well for it. So I love this. This is a great color, and I will make the shawl, and I'll probably use up as much as I possibly can, because I've got a scale, and I can when the rows start getting big towards the end, I can figure out just how many more repeats I can manage to scrape out of it. Yeah, I love this color. This is a great color. This is totally in my wheelhouse. It's also totally in Margaret's wheelhouse, because it's she likes pinks and purples, and I like red and purples. So there we go. Margaret will probably get the shawl. You may have recalled when the Bing shawl was a whip, that we were fighting over rights to that shawl. I've told her that she can borrow it. But I definitely want to wear it because it's such a nice shawl. And this will be such a nice shawl, and maybe she'll let me borrow it too. That would be nice. And I don't have a present to show you from my husband, but he got me a yarn club. He got me Vivid's yarn club, 3 months worth in the worsted. So thank you, major points for my spouse for getting me a yarn club subscription for Christmas. That was awesome. I'm so looking forward to that. And you will definitely get to see it in future podcasts, because that's 3 months. 3 months of being surprised by a skein of yarn that I will almost certainly use for something. Oh, all right, and well, that's the end of my stash enhancement section, but I'm going to talk a bit about stash now. So I did a roundup of my stash. I did something I have done periodically before, and I want to get into doing again, and that is keeping track of my stash, and specifically how much I have and how much I use up, and broken down by weight and brand. And it turns out that I as of January 1st, I had a little over 25,000 yards in my stash. I track it by yards because, you know, that's the best unit of measurement for me because, you know, weight doesn't make sense because it takes up a lot more time to knit up, you know, a gram of sock yarn or lace weight than it takes to knit up, you know, the same in worsted or bulky. So I keep track by yards. I suppose I should keep track by meters because I'm actually fond of the metric system, but yeah, I do live in the U.S. I keep track of it by yards right now. So anyway, yes, 25,000 yards. I'm a little under that now because I've knit stuff and without acquiring more. At least not yet. I'm still waiting for that shipment. But I want to, you know, I think I want to keep it at no more than 25,000 yards and knit through it. So I've got a few things I wanted to do. So this is kind of segueing into knitting goals for 2018. I noticed on my Ravelry page that it, you know, on the Q page that there was a knitting goals thing that I hadn't noticed before that I guess it's new for 2018. You know, and you know they asked you how many projects you wanted to knit in 2018. I put down 50. I knit around 40-ish, 40 something, low 40s, I think, in 2017. And I anticipate doing a lot more socks. I did 25 pairs of socks in 2017. And I still have a lot of sock yarn I want to use up and a lot of feet that I want to make socks for. Well, my kids' feet. But I want them to have a nice stash of socks that are all made by me because they appreciate them and prefer them. They've been wearing their Christmas sweaters. They have not worn, I think Martin wore commercial socks once, and that's because his father put them on him since Christmas. But other than that, they have not worn commercial socks since Christmas. And, you know, I want to keep it that way. I want them to have a nice selection. So I'm planning on, again, probably making another 24 pairs of socks in 2018. I've got 3 sweaters that I definitely need to make, and that's not counting the sweater vest I showed for Duncan's birthday present. I'd like to make I haven't crocheted an Afghan in ages, and my fingers are getting itchy about that. And now that the house is in a bit better shape, we can find room for another crocheted Afghan. I'd stopped making them for a while because we were running out of Afghanless rooms. You know, there's 2 in the boys' room, there's 2 in Margaret's room, there's 1 in my room. You know, there's 2 in Warren's office. There's 1 down here. But yeah, there's only 1 down here. We need more now. We need more Afghans now. You know, we need to get to the point where there are, you know, plenty of Afghans everywhere because I'm crazy that way. So yes, and part of that stash, that 25,000 yards, is over 6,000 yards of lace weight silk from Sandara Yarns. From, you know, much of it from the clubs I was in, but sometimes that was all I could get in her updates was silk lace because it was going less because it was $50 a skein. You know, for 1,000 yard skeins of indie dyed yarn, that's not bad. But I'd made one thing out of the club lace weight, but it was basically a scarf that I knit out of the silk lace on size 0 needles, and that basically killed my lace weighting mojo for years. I finished it. It took me quite some time, but I did finish it, and it was really not transportable because the silk was fiddly, and that killed my lace weight. You know, my lace weight knitting mojo, not my lacing, doing lace. I knitted lace, but my eyes don't correct to 2020, so it was hard on my eyes and everything. Um, but I've got some beautiful skeins of the silk lace in my stash. One of which I definitely want to make into a shawl for Margaret, my daughter, to wear when she gets married. So she's 9 now, so that'll give me some time. But I think that I want to this summer, starting that project, because it'll probably take me a few years to make, and maybe not. We'll see. I won't knit it on size zeros. That was insane. Because I'm insane. But yeah, I'll knit her something nice that she can keep as an heirloom, and then I've got more more skeins. Maybe I'll knit. Yeah, I've got 2 boys. Maybe I'll knit them shawls for their future brides. In the hopes that they get married. I'm pretty sure Duncan's hetero, so I'm assuming that he's going to be marrying a girl. Yeah. And I kind of assume Martin is by default too. But yeah, Duncan's already got a girlfriend, so he's not quite 8, and he's got it. Well, it's just, they're just being cute. They're not really. I don't think it's all that. It goes beyond a nominal thing at this point. But yeah, he's definitely into girls. All right, tangent. Sorry. So that's it for knitting. Though I will say, I love Ravelry's tools. I love, I've got my yarn all in Ravelry, and they can give me I can download the spreadsheet with my stash in it and do the totals, and then subdivide, sort it by weight and subdivide it by weight, which is why I know I have 6,370 yards of lace weight yarn in my stash, and I really should get that number down. It doesn't take up much room, but yes, I'm keeping track of my stash, and I will continue to do so. And that's I will say that number it's not a high number for somebody who's been knitting as long as I have. I mean, I've been knitting for, well, let's not say. I've been knitting and crocheting for quite some time, and the fact that it's only 25,000 yards is, I think, a testament to my ability to actually use what I buy. So I don't feel guilty about buying more, and I definitely don't feel guilty about that subscription that my husband got me. I'm looking forward to that. All right, well, that's all I've got to talk about this time. Thank you for joining me, and hopefully I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks and see what I've made then.